Good afternoon. We're going to start in a minute, but what I wanted to say is welcome. And if the person from your organization receiving the award would come up to the front, because we have you seated in this front row. And we're going to start in just a minute. Legacy Project Committee. It's great to see everybody here. Thank you for being here. So welcome to today's event, Activists Inspiring Action, Igniting Justice, as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of Yasui being posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Obama. Thank you all. Thank you for your presence in this room and online. Thank you for your commitment to learn, to protect our inalienable rights, and to uphold the Constitution. Let's hear it for the Constitution. Thank you, art student honorees, the middle school and high school winners of the 2025 Minoru Yasui Student Contest, Human Rights Activism That Inspires. We are counting on you as future leaders to do better than we have done and are doing. Please view the artwork on the walls over there, and the two middle school winners are on that easel. Thank you to the organizations honored today for your courageous actions and unwavering commitment to do what's right. We celebrate your work to protect the rule of law, safeguard our democracy, and deepen justice for us all. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you for our sponsors, for supporting our work, for supporting civil rights, for honoring men's legacy, and lifting up our future leaders. I want to recognize the University of Oregon School of Law, our host sponsor, and especially Emily Weiner. Is Emily here? She was here. So, oh, there she is. Stand up, Emily. Emily has been our host sponsor for years, for Jennifer Geller and for Roy Catalani. I don't know. I don't think Jennifer's here. I think she's online, but is Roy here? He's a professor at the law school. He is coming. And also, thank you to the Pillars of Justice sponsors, the CHOP Yasui Fund, Gorge Community Foundation, the families of Chizio and Masao Yasui, the Minyasui stalwarts, the Standard, Providence Hood River in memory of Paul Hamada, Providence Hood River in memory of Ruth Akiyama. Thank you to all our other sponsors listed in the program. The Minyasui Legacy Booster, Yasui Inc., the Friends of Minoru Yasui Day, Serena Hawkins Law, supporters, Paul Crowley Mediation, Copper West Real Estate, Derek Abe, and Emily Thackeray. Thank you so much to all the sponsors for your generosity. In addition to welcoming and thanking, I'd like to also lay the backdrop for why we do the work that we do, why we are honoring the work of other organizations, why both looking back and taking action now is imperative. First, the parallels between our current day raising of rights and our country 80 years ago, especially in demonizing, detaining, deporting, and imprisoning certain groups of people, is all too familiar. What do I mean by that? Let's go back in time. So it's 1942. Minoru Yasui was a true patriot, a believer in the rule of law, an unshakable American who loved America. And because of that, when others capitulated and fostered anticipatory obedience, Yasui defied. In 1942, this country was at a crossroads, a moral moment between rights and race, between racial hatred and inalienable freedoms. Yasui rose to that moment by intentionally disobeying the military curfew and breaking the law. Yes, he broke the law in defense of our Constitution, saying that the military curfew was a wrongdoing not just to Japanese Americans, but to all Americans, because what is done to the least of us can be done to all of us. I have often wondered how men had the courage and conviction to face that moral moment and to put his liberty and professional career on the line, especially at the young age of 25. So I often ask groups of lawyers, would you do that? At the age of 25, would any of us do that at the age of 25? And my answer is, I don't know. I don't know if I would do that. But that's what he did. I've come to realize that Yasui could break the law and deal with the consequences because he had a strong moral compass and a passion to act. He said, if we believe in America, if we believe in equality and democracy, if we believe in law and justice, then each of us, when we see or believe that errors are being made, has an obligation to make every effort to correct them. Today, we face another moral moment. As Senator Cory Booker opined in his 25-hour and 5-minute speech, his plea to us is, let us know that we rose to meet this moment. Minoru Yasui did meet that moment in 1942. His moral compass had him, as a lawyer, intentionally get arrested, spend 9 months in solitary confinement, appeal his case to the Supreme Court where he lost, but he never gave up. He spent the next 40 years fostering cross-cultural partnerships before it was even a thing to do cross-cultural partnerships, for reparations and for furthering justice. When documents were found in the National Archives that proved his incarceration and that of 120,000 other Japanese Americans was based on racial discrimination, not military necessity, he could not wait to reopen his case and seek the justice he had been denied. He told me, I don't know if we're going to win, Peggy, but we're going to give him hell. And that's who Min Yasui was. That's who he was. Will we do today what Min Yasui did over 80 years ago? act on our moral compass? Will we stand up and meet this moment? Will we step forward and speak out against current day atrocities? Will we raise our voices and act when the government is disappearing people, when people are swooped up, flown out, and incarcerated in Latin American prisons without just cause or due process? Do we, especially as Japanese Americans, possess the moral compass to be the allies that our community did not have in World War II? Will we all work to stop repeating history? Stop the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, last used to imprison Issei solely based on their ancestry, not their actions? Will we fight the current administration's threat to revoke birthright citizenship, as Oregon Federal District Court Judge Alger Fee had done to Yasui in 1942, when Fee ruled that Yasui's employment at a Japanese consulate stripped him of his birthright citizenship and relegated him to being an enemy alien and therefore subject to harsh government treatment. Will we reject the stereotyping of immigrants as drug dealers and inherent criminals who are poisoning our blood and eating our cats? Will we realize that the cruelty seen in those El Salvadorian prisons can be easily matched to the cruelty faced by Japanese Americans in the Tule Lake concentration camp 80 years ago, as Satsuki Ina so aptly showed us by comparing pictures of both prisons? Our Japanese American history is no longer just that sad, long ago, dark chapter in America's past, when that was safe to say about how terrible it was, because nothing could be done about it to take it back. Our history is now. And in these now circumstances, it will take not just Japanese Americans, but all of us, we the people, to meet the moment and redeem the soul of America, as the late Congressman John Lewis pressed us to do. Lewis admonished us to get in good trouble, necessary trouble. That is what Min Yasui did over 80 years ago. If he were here today, I know he would do no less. So with that backdrop and a little lighter moment, let me pivot and introduce our MC, Chani Hawkins, Min Yasui's granddaughter. I've known Chani for over a decade, and what I know about her is she is multi-talented, relationship-oriented, creative, and committed to carry on her grandfather's legacy. Her day job is mom to Penn, who's over there, rehabbing, renting out, and managing her rental properties. Chani believes that reasonably priced housing is the cornerstone of her Kansas City community. Chani also gives high praise to her family, who has encouraged both Chani and her sister Serena to contribute in their own way. Serena is a lawyer and works as a guardian ad litem for minors. She advocates for those who cannot advocate for themselves. Her mom, Laurel, is a biologist and committed to future generations having a safe world in which to live. Please give Chani a big and warm Oregon welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you today, not just as a member of the MYLP committee, but also as a granddaughter of a man whose legacy I hold close to my heart, my grandfather, Minoru Yasui. Growing up, I didn't just learn about my grandfather's legacy from textbooks or history classes. I learned about him from the stories my family shared, stories of his fierce independence, his unyielding spirit, and his deep compassion for others. You see, Min didn't just fight for the rights of Japanese Americans. He fought for the rights of everyone. He recognized that the struggles of one group were intrinsically connected to the struggles of all marginalized communities. Minoru Yasui is best known for his defiance of the curfew imposed on Japanese Americans during World War II. In a time when fear and prejudice ran high, when communities were being torn apart and innocent people were being wrongfully imprisoned, my grandpa made the brave decision to challenge the constitutionality of the Japanese American curfew and internment. He knew that this wasn't just a battle for the Japanese American community. It was a battle for every community that had ever been oppressed or marginalized. His actions didn't just resist one injustice, they illuminated the path forward for all who seek equality, justice, and human dignity. But what I've come to understand is that his commitment to advocacy went far beyond the legal battles. Grandpa's cross-cultural approach to justice was truly remarkable. His deep empathy led him to recognize the interconnectedness of struggles across racial, ethnic, and cultural boundaries. As a child, I remember hearing about how my grandfather would stand up with other marginalized groups, supporting their causes, even when it wasn't the popular or easy thing to do. He wasn't just a man of principle. He was a man of action. His advocacy was grounded in the belief that we are all part of the same human family and that no community's struggle is separate from another's. In the 1940s, when Min was living in Denver, he didn't view the civil rights movement as a fight for one community alone. He understood that the fight for justice was a collective one, and over the next 40 years, he took action. An example of his cross-cultural advocacy was his collaboration with African American leaders during the 1940s civil rights struggles. Grandpa believed in the power of solidarity, and he worked closely with civil rights organizations that supported the African American community's fight against segregation and racial discrimination. In addition to his involvement with African American communities, Min was also a staunch ally to labor groups and the Hispanic and Latin American community in Denver. He advocated for workers' rights, recognizing that economic justice was central to achieving racial justice. He worked alongside labor organizers to ensure that disenfranchised workers, regardless of their background, had access to fair wages and working conditions. His advocacy extended to supporting farm workers and advocating for their rights, particularly in the face of exploitation by large agricultural corporations. Grandpa's commitment to cross-cultural advocacy was also evident in his work with Native American communities. He saw the injustice of the federal government's treatment of indigenous peoples and stood in solidarity with them, supporting their right to land, culture, and sovereignty. He believed that justice for Native Americans was just as critical as justice for any other marginalized group, and he worked alongside leaders in those communities to amplify their voices. As I look around this room, I'm reminded that his fight is not over. We still live in a world where many communities face injustice, discrimination, and marginalization. And while we've made great strides in advancing civil rights, there is still much work to be done. My grandfather's fight is one that remains unfinished, but it is a fight that we must continue, together, with the same cross-cultural compassion and commitment that he demonstrated. My grandfather's legacy is not just something that belongs to history. It is something that belongs to all of us. His story is a call to action, a reminder that each of us has a responsibility to stand up for justice, to fight for the dignity of others, and to ensure that every voice is heard. Thank you for allowing me to share a part of my grandfather with you today. I hope his story will inspire you to continue your critical work of advocacy and to stand with those whose voices are still too often silenced. Thank you. This year, we celebrate the 10th anniversary of Minoru Yasui being posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama. Here to share the journey towards the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the MYLP is Lynn Fujigami Parks, steering committee member of the MYLP and executive director emeritus of the Japanese American Museum of Oregon.
Thank you, Chani, and good afternoon, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here with all of you and to be able to honor the 10 recipients of the Minoru Yasui Activism Award. So Min had a favorite saying, and it is, "We are born into this world for a purpose. Make it a better place for our having been here." And these honorees have certainly done just that through their activism and their actions, and they're still leading the charge today. The other reason that we're gathering and we're really excited to celebrate is the 10th anniversary of Min being awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And I can remember distinctly back in 2014 when Min's daughter Holly and Min's brother Homer and Peggy Nagai came to me when I was at then Oregon Nikkei Endowment, and it's now the Japanese American Museum of Oregon. And they were wondering if we would become the fiscal sponsor for the Minoru Yasui Tribute Project. And that was created to support Min's nomination for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And for all of us, it was just a complete no-brainer. We were deeply honored to be a sponsor of this project. And the other thing is there would be no way that you could ever say no to any of those three individually, let alone all of them together. Anyway, the nomination was made by Senator Mazie Hirono, and it was bolstered by bipartisan support, imagine that, in both the Senate by Senator Ron Wyden, and then in the House of Representatives, it was championed by Representative Mike Honda. So the journey to Min's Presidential Medal of Freedom really entailed countless hours of work by a dedicated group led by Peggy and Holly and people in the state of Oregon, Washington, Colorado, and California. And they worked tirelessly to get endorsements from 115 elected officials and 46 state and regional civil rights organizations and individuals. And as a result, Min was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2015 by President Barack Obama. So please enjoy this clip of Min's award ceremony.
On a Saturday night in March of 1942, Minoru Yasui left his law office to walk around Portland, Oregon. It was a seemingly ordinary act that defied the discriminatory military curfew imposed on Japanese Americans during World War II. Min took his case to the Supreme Court and lost, a decision he fought for the rest of his life. Yet despite what Japanese Americans endured, suspicion, hostility, forced removal, internment, Min never stopped believing in the promise of his country. He never stopped fighting for equality and justice for all. "We believe in the greatness and in the great ideals of this country," he once said. "We think that there is a future for all humanity in the United States of America." Today, Min's legacy has never been more important. It is a call to our national conscience, a reminder of our enduring obligation to be the land of the free and the home of the brave, an America worthy of his sacrifice.
Lori Yasui, receiving on behalf of Minoru Yasui. From the fruit farms of Oregon to the hallowed halls of the Supreme Court, Minoru Yasui devoted his life to fighting for basic human rights and the fair and equal treatment of every American. In challenging the military curfew placed on Japanese Americans during World War II, he brought critical attention to the issue and paved the way for all Americans to stand as full and equal citizens. Minoru Yasui's example endures as a reminder of the power of one voice echoing for justice.
Gentlemen, give them a big round of applause. 2015 Presidential Medal of Freedom winners.
So Min's daughter Holly reflected on this moment by writing, "My dad was above all deeply patriotic, so I think he would have considered the Presidential Medal of Freedom a crowning achievement in his life. He received many awards during his lifetime since he was active in so many areas, but I think he would feel vindicated that all his life's work, all the millions of hours he spent fighting for justice on behalf of the oppressed and disenfranchised, was recognized and appreciated by the President of the United States." Now you have to wonder what Min would think of the White House right now. Can you imagine what would Min be doing today if he were still alive? His defiance 83 years ago was a stand against government overreach and discrimination, and a very ominous echo as we see our democracy undermined, the safeguards to protect it dismantled, the rule of law being bent and broken. Min challenged injustices, and he also knew that no government should have unchecked power. So it seems like the only safeguards left now are we, the people, the power of the people. Min not only knew this, but he called us to action by saying, "This is the United States of America, founded in liberty, dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal." And as an American citizen, as a lawyer, I felt we owed at least the obligation as a citizen to tell our government they are wrong. That is the sacred duty of every citizen, because what is done to the least of us can be done to all of us. I knew we had to protest this. And then you just saw also President Obama, they were underscoring this, stating that Min's example endures as a reminder of the power of one voice echoing for justice. So imagine millions of people and voices echoing for justice. And that is what we're beginning to see today. That's what the protests across the country today were all about. So what would be on Min's radar now? New executive orders and proclamations have been rolling out like thunder across our nation, and it's leaving as much destruction as tornadoes have been doing across the country. From invoking the Alien Enemies Act to the Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, they are an affront to human rights, the rule of law, our democracy, and attempts to whitewash or erase the truth about racism and other dark chapters in our history and our present. How many have heard about the Restoring Truth and Sanity Executive Order? So under this order, improper, divisive, or anti-American ideology will be removed from Smithsonian sites to restore the institution to its rightful place as a symbol of inspiration and American greatness. It seeks to rewrite and limit how history is taught to the public, downplaying and erasing elements such as slavery, segregation, discrimination, and suppresses the voices of marginalized people. It's also going to review monuments, markers, and statues that were taken down or changed since 2020 and restore them. And on the flip side of that, they're going to also be reviewing memorials to make sure they do not contain descriptions, depictions, or other content that inappropriately disparages Americans past or living. So the NPS, National Park Service, is now examining interpretive panels, exhibits, and historical materials across more than 400 parks and sites nationwide. Now, since the Congressional Commission on Wartime Relocation and Internment found that the incarceration was not due to military necessity, but due to race prejudice, war hysteria, and a failure of political leadership, this history is absolutely in the crosshairs. This puts things like the Japanese American confinement sites at risk, and we should not assume that anything is safe. So examples of these types of things that are already taking place, federal cuts have trimmed the staff in 3 additional positions that were unfilled. They left them unfilled, including the site manager at 2 of Colorado's signature historic sites, one being Amachi, which is where my family was incarcerated, and the Sand Creek Massacre, where U.S. troops slaughtered hundreds of peaceful Cheyenne and Arapaho. And yet the third of the 3 High Plains National Historic Sites, which is Bent's Old Fort, did not lose any employees in this round of cuts. So what do we do when every day brings threats to our democracy, erasure of history, increased attacks on immigrants and marginalized communities, and not just restrictions, but violations of our civil rights and civil liberties? People are suffering from whiplash, but we must not let the chaos paralyze us, divide us, or lead us to despair, because that is the goal. So it's like that question, how do you eat an elephant? It's kind of an interesting metaphor. We dig in the trenches. We keep doing what we are all doing, but we should be collaborating as often as possible to maximize our impact. There's power in numbers and collective voices and actions. We need to fight the chaos with organized efficiency, preparing to act quickly, mobilize responses, protests, and collective calls to action. And think about this. The fallout from this chaos just might birth opportunities to build alliances with unlikely allies. And just as important, we should gather often to lift our spirits, be inspired and energized by each other in our work, and celebrate the wins. This is why we wanted to bring everybody together today. So to close, I implore all of you to do whatever brings you joy, laughter, and rejuvenation. We have to find ways to decompress and be refreshed. For me, it's as simple as being blessed with a new granddaughter. When I hold her, all is well with the world. All my worries and cares and frustrations and anger just melt away. She brings me joy, centers me, and energizes and inspires me. But then I think about the future, her future. And I realize that I must continue the fight to ensure that she has a better future. So those that went before us inspire us. And I'd like to say that those we pave the way for should energize and will energize us. We need to be nourishing our hearts and our souls, for we must be in good mind and good spirits to be able to get into good trouble. Thank you. Never give up, and never again is now.
Thank you, Lynn, for your inspirational words and for bringing the clip of the men's ceremony for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. As Peggy mentioned, the focus of today's program is to honor and recognize the incredible work of those following in Min's footsteps and carrying on his work and legacy. In the booklet that has been provided, you will find information about each of the awardees, their mission, and the work that they do. The Minoru Yasui Activism Award is awarded in recognition of significant contributions to social justice, human rights, and the values that Min championed. They exhibit strong leadership qualities and effectively mobilize communities, working to raise awareness and implement innovative solutions to pressing social issues. Through their actions, they inspire others to engage in activism and foster positive change. These awards celebrate not only their accomplishments, but their unwavering dedication to create a more equitable and just society. There are many avenues to do this, including law and politics, and the people that we recognize in this first group have played a crucial role in challenging injustice, advocating for marginalized communities, and protecting vulnerable populations. Legal and political activism amplifies the voices of citizens and holds leaders accountable to ensure that power remains in check. Here to assist me with handing out the awards is my son, Penn Walker. Our first award recognizes ACLU Portland, and here to accept the award is Executive Director, ACLU of Oregon, Sandy Chung.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sandy Chung. My pronouns are she and her. I'm the Executive Director of the ACLU of Oregon. I feel really overwhelmed every time I have another chance to hear Minoru Yasui's story. I feel so overwhelmed. And this morning, Councillor Koyama Lane and I also spoke before thousands of people at the Portland protests. And so it has been a day of just a lot of overwhelming but beautiful emotions. On behalf of the ACLU of Oregon community, I want to express my deep gratitude to the Minoru Yasui Legacy Committee for this incredible recognition and honor. Our mission is to defend and advance democracy, civil liberties, and civil rights. We have more than 44,000 members and donor supporters across the state of Oregon. I want to tell you, since the election, before the election, we were at 38,000, so more than 4,000 people 6,000 people across Oregon have joined us since the election. Democracy is very important to me, not just because of my job, but it is a core part of my family's history. My family and I immigrated from South Korea when I was 5 in the early 1980s. At that time, South Korea was ruled by a military dictator. In 1980, my parents became profoundly disillusioned with their country when the government suppressed pro-democracy protests in a city called Gwangju by killing anywhere from a couple hundred to a couple thousand people, including many college students. We don't know the number because a lot of information from that time was suppressed. Gwangju was my dad's hometown. About a month after Trump's re-election on December 3rd, 2024, then President Yoon of South Korea tried to do a Trump. He tried to become a fascist. He declared martial law. In response, South Korean lawmakers scaled the walls of their parliamentary building, and they blocked their doors from Yoon's henchmen in order to pass an emergency law blocking the martial law order by Yoon. At the same time, millions of South Koreans took to the streets to say no to fascism and to protect their democracy. And this past week, Yoon's impeachment was affirmed by all 8 justices on South Korea's Constitutional Court. I start by sharing with you South Korea's history and story, because we, the people in the United States, we are not alone in our struggle for democracy. And as we can see from South Korea's story, we can fight fascists and we can win. In our fight for fascism, we are fighting for the heart of our country. In this fight, our opponents, who now include the current president of the United States, want our country ruled by greed, corruption, and control. We strive for justice, fairness, and freedom. Our opponents foment hate and division. We cultivate care and collaboration. Our opponents embolden billionaires. We empower everyday people. Our opponents and the President of the United States are bullies. We take down bullies. Unfortunately, President Trump, as I've said, he's a bully. He goes after the people who he thinks are the most vulnerable, who he believes we, the people, will leave behind. Since Inauguration Day, President Trump has been particularly inhumane and evil in targeting our neighbors who are immigrants and refugees, who are transgender, and who have spoken up against war and genocide and for Palestinian freedom. At the ACLU and the ACLU of Oregon, and the ACLU has been around for more than 100 years. We have been always very clear that our purpose is to resist fascism and fight for democracy. And at the ACLU, we have a saying, see you in court. Over our history and over the course of now Trump's 2 presidencies, the ACLU has gone to court and gone to court again and again and again to defend the many people who have been targeted, harassed, and even imprisoned by our government simply for exercising our basic constitutional rights. During the current administration, we have also gone to court to fight Trump and his use of the Alien Enemies Act. We strive to make sure our government is truly accountable to the people. Currently, the ACLU of Oregon is also leading the Equal Rights for All campaign. The purpose of this constitutional change campaign is to affirm abortion and trans healthcare rights and same-gender marriage in the Oregon Constitution. By doing this, we seek to make sure that all Oregonians have equality and freedom. We ask all of you to help amplify our campaign across Oregon and make sure Oregonians across our state are joining this ballot measure campaign at a time when so many of our rights are under attack. The ACLU believes that our work is to defend and advance democracy, civil liberties, and civil rights, and to make sure that the long arc of history truly bends towards justice, and make sure that the hard sacrifices and work of civil rights leaders like Minoru Yasui continue and are recognized. Thank you for recognizing our contributions to this work, and please join us and make sure we truly remember Minoru Yasui's legacy by making sure that the arc of history does bend towards justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next awardee is the Apano Communities United Fund. Please welcome Co-Executive Director Kim Leppin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Leppin. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a co-executive director at Apano Communities United Fund, And I want to start by thanking the Minoru Yasui Legacy Project for recognizing Apano. It is truly an honor to accept this award on behalf of our team. And I also want to congratulate and recognize other organizations being honored today. At Apano, we work with such passion and commitment within our diverse Asian communities. And at the heart of our work is our commitment to community and our fight for what we believe all of us deserve and all that is under attack in this moment, whether it's housing, childcare, food access, climate justice wins, reproductive equity, or policies that reflect the needs and voices of our community. We do this work to build a future where our communities can thrive with dignity and power. It's great to be in community today with so many of you who are also doing this amazing work, including incredible partners like Peggy Nagai, who we partner with to bring more representation to our elected offices. Min's work continues to shape the way we show up for each other and our work. At Apano, we've been truly inspired by his legacy for standing up for solidarity, civic engagement, and civil rights. So much so that we are naming the community space at Leijin Commons after Min. I think he would have been proud to support this effort, which includes 124 affordable housing units on the Portland Community College Southeast campus. We hope that his legacy will live on in the lives of the future residents, students, and neighbors who will grow, learn, and lead from that space. Lastly, Min's legacy teaches us that we don't have to do this work alone, that real change happens when we show up together, support one another, and keep going side by side. So I want to close by dedicating this award to Apano staff, board, and volunteers. It is through your tireless commitment, your creativity. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to avoid eye contact with my team. Excuse me. I'm dedicating this award to the Apano team, board, and volunteers. It is through your tireless commitment, creativity, and collective spirit that this work is possible. Thank you for showing up with your whole hearts, just like Min. This recognition belongs to all of you who work every day to advance equity and justice in our communities. Thank you.
Our next recipient is Perkins Coie, a law firm who is making national headlines as they stand up against an executive order that violates our core constitutional rights. Min would be proud. Please show your support and welcome Portland Managing Partner, Christopher Rich.
So I'm Chris Rich, the managing partner of the law firm Perkins Coie. And if you've not heard of the law firm Perkins Coie, then welcome back from your digital detox and or your sabbatical in the Antarctic. With me today is Adriana Simonelli, an associate. And we are so honored to be recognized for our activism by the Minoru Yasui Legacy Project. We are a firm of 1,100 attorneys in 21 offices across the United States and in Asia and in the UK. And in the last 2 years, we have collectively invested 68,000 hours of pro bono work on causes of our attorneys choosing for projects that are impactful to the basic civil rights and enforcement of the law that we believe are guaranteed to each citizen. I have been thinking a lot of Min Yasui lately. Every day I walk past the Min Yasui room in our office, and so I see Min every day. We have a small visit, but I've been thinking about him lately. I think about that young lawyer on that spring evening in 1942 who walked down to the Central Precinct on 2nd and Pine, which I stopped by on my way in today It's a law firm now. I think he might be pleased about that. And to think about the profound commitment and belief in the inalienable rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution of his United States, that he would walk in and sacrifice his liberty, and then for the next 9 months in solitary confinement in the Multnomah County Jail, the bars of which you can see in the Japanese American Museum in Portland, to then spend the next 3 years at the Minnetonka internment camp, and then the patience that he spent for the next 40 years before the legal system that he spent his entire life believing and defending would finally vindicate his case. And for me, I think about the legacy of Min Yasui as fundamentally coming down to, if you must stand alone, you still nonetheless must stand. And it is never too early or too late to try to stand on the right side of justice and the law. But we are stronger when we stand together. And so in honor of Min's legacy, I just want to say thank you all. Thanks to everyone who has stood with our firm during these days. And I could not be more proud to be receiving this on behalf of the law firm Perkins Coie LLP. Thank you.
Next, we'd like to present the award to Western State Center. So please welcome Executive Director Amy Hirschfield-Koppel.
Oh, this is just thrilling. I'm Amy Hirschfield-Koppel. I'm lucky to be the Executive Director of Western State Center. Our team is deeply touched by this honor, and it's especially meaningful to share it with longtime partners like Apano and the ACLU. We've also been extremely proud to partner with the Min Yasui Legacy Project and have the dear friendship of Peggy Nagai for several years now. I'm joined today by our board chair, Marietta Gary Smith, who is a third-generation leader of our organization, and her beloved mom, Sharon Gary Smith. We share this award with our full board, staff, and fellows. We're all inspired by Min Yasui's vision and courage. And like Min did, we understand that how we resist authoritarian and bigoted movements in our region has national stakes. We have our work cut out for us these days, but we know that our work here will lead to instructive lessons for the rest of the country. For nearly 40 years, Western State Center has been a steadfast strategy partner to communities across the West, courageously standing up for justice and organizing against anti-democracy attacks. We accept this as an affirmation to keep going alongside all of you. And like a lot of folks have already shared, there's all kinds of action happening today. I brought my family with me here, and we started our day at a neighborhood park in Southeast Portland, where several hundred families, local families, gathered to make signs ahead of the big hands-off democracy action downtown. And I'm so proud that our 7-year-old daughter, who's deeply embarrassed right now, is learning all about the power of community and solidarity. So we'll talk to her today, that's right, about Min Yasui's legacy, and that while we all may not be able to take the extraordinary steps and make the extraordinary sacrifice that Min Yasui did, we all have a role to play, big and small, in standing up for democracy and protecting our communities against injustice. So thank you very much.
Thank you all, and if we can have one more round of applause for this first cohort of awardees. In addition to recognizing the recipients of the Minoru Yasui Activism Awards, we are excited to announce this year's winners of the MYLP and the Japanese American Museum of Oregon's Student Art Contest for for middle school and high school students. Min's daughter, Holly, felt strongly about getting students involved as they represent the future leaders of our world. Art in its many forms can be a powerful tool for social and political change, inspiring movements and raising awareness. Here to announce this year's Middle School Student Contest winners is Emily Thackeray, co-chair of the Student Contest Committee and member of the Minoru Yasui Legacy Project Steering Committee.
Hi. This is my first year co-chairing this contest. It's been quite an honor, and yeah, when I realized who was emailing me asking me to help, and that it was Peggy, who I had taught my students about in the previous year, I was like, I cannot say no to her. How could I say no to her? And yeah, so here I am. My name's Emily Thackeray. I think we're ready to, yeah. So the Student Contest Committee is made up of myself, Peggy, Alyssa Dingus, Logan Pinard, and Aurora Ashleyando, Violet Azoa West, and Cassie McMillan. We meet throughout the year, figuring out how to go about promoting the contest and to get the word out. All of the intricacies with judging. There's many judges involved. And along with the Student Contest Committee, we have an education committee, and we work to make curriculum to make the contest be as accessible as it can be and to be able to reach in classrooms. And it's wonderful. Being an art teacher, it's not a part of my job description to teach about democracy, but I can't help but think that that's what I want to do. And so thank you for this contest. So let's go on. Our honorable mention was not able to make it. They are Tongan Gia. This is for the junior division. Second place, this is one of my students, is Freya Albert. And I have a certificate for Freya. Come on up here, come on. And then first place, she was not able to make it, but we do have a video of acceptance from her, and this is also one of my students. My goal is to have many other winners besides my students, but I gotta say. Victoria G. Valles Garcia.
Hello, my name is Victoria Valles Garcia. Sadly, I couldn't attend either of the Minoru Yasui events. But if you're watching this, it means I'm probably watching this from YouTube in the comfort of my room. Here we are. First of all, I can't even express it into words how grateful I am to have won. Initially, I wasn't going to enter the competition, thinking I would just lose or that I wasn't fit for it, since it was my first time entering in a competition. And most of all, I've never been the most confident person when it came to sharing my art. Mostly just showing my parents and very few friends, just showing simple pieces I've done, and here I am, having won something I thought wouldn't even be remotely possible. It definitely shocked me, and I just wanted to thank my mom and sister and my dad who pushed me out of my comfort zone and made me join. I didn't explain what my drawing was, and knowing it was rather risky, considering it was more of explaining what you think activism should be and comparing your drawing and telling the meaning and connecting to the prompt we were provided. But I didn't, because I wanted to imagine the story, to create a little scenario of what you think the meaning is. That's what I want the effect on my drawings to be, for you to be able to imagine the hidden meaning, or for you to create your own. One thing I have to say is that I also moved when I was little. I moved when I was 4. So I kind of relate to Minoru as he was Japanese living here. And despite all the odds, he still fought for what was right. And that itself is very important, knowing that we have these rights today because of his hard work. Aside from all that, thank you so much for this opportunity. I hope all of you enjoyed the event, and as always, stay creative.
And now we have Violet Peanut, who is going to ask for your help with something.
Hello everyone, my name is Violet Ozawa West, and if you look at your table, you will see some postcards with the artwork on them. I'd like to ask you to use those postcards and write a note to somebody who has in the past inspired you to be where you are right now. And then when you're done, where's the box?
Where is the box?
Well, okay. You'll place the postcards in the mailbox. They feature the art of past contest participants and or winners. Just winners? Yeah. And so if you want to, you can look through them and see the art. Thank you so much. As a past winner, I just really like to say that I'm really thankful for everyone in this organization and all the organizations that have helped today. Yeah, thank you for coming here.
And I think you're back up, Johnny. Yeah.
Thank you, Emily, and congratulations to this year's winner and runner-up, the Middle School Art Contest. History has long been a catalyst and ignited activism, serving as both a source of inspiration and a warning against repeating past injustices. The next group of awardees ensures that the fight for justice is an ongoing and evolving effort that draws direct lessons from the past to ensure a better future. Our first recipient, Oregon Historical Society, fosters a better tomorrow through an Oregon story that is meaningful to all. To accept their award, please welcome Boyle Family Executive Director, Carrie Timchik.
Well, thank you very much. Let me begin by confessing that I feel a little bit guilty about accepting this award. Not guilty enough to turn it down, mind you, but still a little bit guilty. And I say that in sharing the history, because in sharing the history of the Yasui family and in sharing the history of other Oregonians who have advanced civil rights and justice, we are simply doing our job. The mission of OHS is to preserve the history of Oregon and to make it accessible to everybody in ways that advance knowledge and inspire curiosity. And it goes without saying that that mission has never been more important than today, a time when there are those who want to shy away from sharing the true history. Let me assure you that that is something that OHS will never shy away from. I recall very clearly an individual going through our showcase exhibit at OHS, Experience Oregon, and complaining that it made him feel guilty about being a white man. I told him that he was not responsible for what happened 100 years ago, or 75 years ago, or 50 years ago, but he was responsible for knowing what happened and hopefully learning from it. And on behalf of the entire team at OHS who joins me today, I assure you that we will not regard this award as recognition for any past accomplishments. Rather, we will regard it as a reminder that our work is far from done. and that our mission continues. This past Tuesday, I had the honor of being asked to deliver the invocation at the beginning of the session of the Oregon State Senate. I used my remarks to remind them that just 4 days before, Oregon had commemorated Minoru Yasui Day, and to share the story of his life and legacy. And I close my remarks, as I will close this afternoon, by sharing the challenge that Minoru gave to all of us, legislators and citizens alike, and you've heard those words earlier. If we believe in America, if we believe in equality and democracy, if we believe in law and justice, then each of us, when we see or believe errors are being made, has an obligation to make every effort to correct them. And one of the ways OHS is going to do that, and I would invite you all, this June, I'm very proud to announce that we are going to open a brand new exhibit that will run for almost a year and continue into 2026, when America will be celebrating the semi-quincentennial, the 250th year since the Declaration of Independence. The exhibit is entitled The Yasui Family, An American Story. And we are honored to be the guardians, as members of the Yasui family know, of many letters and documents and objects and journals from the family. Those will all be on display at the Oregon Ancestral Society in our showcase exhibit during the last half of this year, the first half of next year, to share the remarkable story of Minoru Yasui, the Yasui family, and to remind everybody that if we believe in equality and democracy, then everybody has an obligation to make every effort to stand up for them. So thank you very much for this award.
The next awardee in History Igniting Activism is Densho. So please put your hands together for Executive Director Naomi Kawamura.
In my mind, I'm very tall, so I'm always like, I have to adjust these things. I'm very honored to be receiving this award on behalf of Densho. My name is Naomi Ostwald Kawamura, and I am the Executive Director of Densho. Densho was founded in 1996 through grassroots community efforts, and since then it's grown into becoming the most trusted, accessible, and comprehensive resource, a community-based digital archive that focuses on the history of the wartime incarceration of Japanese Americans. Through oral histories, our archival collections, and educational programs, we work to ensure that the stories of Japanese Americans, like that of Min Yasui, are not forgotten, distorted, or erased, but passed on for generations to come. We're also advocates and leaders for community-based archival work that ensures communities are able to preserve and steward their own collective memory on their own terms. At Densho, our mission is not just to preserve and steward, but also to share this critical history to advance equity and justice today. We partner with scholars, historians, journalists, storytellers to support new research and scholarship to bring this history to life and to make meaningful connections between the past and the present. Today, the wartime incarceration of Japanese Americans holds deep relevance in the United States. We see echoes of this history in the use and abuse of executive orders, threats to our constitutional rights, ICE raids, mass detentions, and the digital erasure of public histories from government websites. And like many history-centered organizations that shine a light on difficult chapters of our nation's history, our work at Densho has become increasingly difficult to sustain. We face new and growing threats, and not just to our mission, but in our ability to continue doing this work at all. This is why this recognition today is so meaningful. It's been a tough few weeks. Even as U.S. institutions like the National Endowment for the Humanities that support our work become systematically dismantled, we can remind one another that we do this work in community with the support of many who continue to believe in the importance and relevancy of our work. History doesn't just vanish just because it's made harder to find. I do believe that knowledge is not so fragile. They can ban books and erase websites, but not the knowing. Thank you to the Minoru Yasui Legacy Project for this incredible honor. Thank you for your stewardship of the lived experience and legacy of an incredible individual and fellow Japanese American, Min Yasui, who, even in dark times, believed in the promise of justice. Min's story and the activists who led the redress movement remind us that the pursuit of a more just and compassionate world requires community, resilience, moral clarity, and persistent, consistent action. We at Densho believe and carry that belief forward, and we are deeply grateful to do this work alongside all of you. Thank you.
Next, we'd like to recognize the Japanese American Museum of Oregon. So please welcome Executive Director Hanako Wakatsuki Chang.
Hi everyone. I just want to thank the Minoru Yasui Legacy Project. This is an honor to accept this award on behalf of my staff and my board. So, we're always excited to be working with the Minoru Legacy Project, Minoru Yasui Legacy Project, on all the programming that we've done over the years and that we're going to continue to do. So the mission of the Japanese American Museum of Oregon is to preserve and honor the history and culture of the Japanese Americans in the Pacific Northwest, educate the public about the Japanese American experience during World War II, and advocate for the protection of civil rights for all Americans. We are also privileged to have in our collection some of the Yasui family things, like whether it's pictures or stuff from Homer within our institution. And we're also, as an institution, we co-manage the Japanese American Historical Plaza on the Tom McCall Waterfront Park as well, which I understand some of you all may have been there earlier today for a protest. Today's political environment has many similarities, from 80 years ago. The villaination of people and communities, people disappearing like how my great-grandfather disappeared through the use of the Alien Enemies Act. So we all need to, make sure that we're preserving this history so we can learn from it, right? And we need to also find new ways to tell these stories. So recently we're working with the Oregon Nisei Vets on a project on a wayside and a video. But then we're also have been working on a project with the Friends of Minidoka where they just asked us to help them out on their Beyond the Barbed Wire programming, where we, advocated that Minoru Yasui needed to be included in this Resistor tour. So I wanted to show you a quick 4-minute clip where this is actually, I think, the world premiere of this Minoru Yasui part, because we're trying to coincide it with this event. So if we could get that playing, that'll be fantastic.
On an early spring evening in 1942, a young Japanese-American man walked up and down Portland's 3rd Avenue. It wasn't an idle stroll, but the commission of a federal crime. Because in wartime America, Japanese Americans were subject to a curfew in cities and towns along the Pacific coast. The young man was Minoru Yasui, a 25-year-old attorney from Hood River who had already achieved a milestone. He was the first Japanese American ever admitted to the Oregon Bar Association. Breaking the curfew was no accident. Yasui was deliberately setting up a legal test to challenge the constitutionality of the military curfew on Japanese American citizens. And in the ordinary act of walking the streets after dark, he walked himself into the history books. Minoru Yasui recalls,
I walked for over 3 hours, and during that period I got tired of walking up and down 3rd Avenue, so I did approach a police officer. And being a smart aleck and being an attorney, I pulled out the proclamation pointing out that it was in violation of a military proclamation. I had my birth certificate with me, and I proved that I was a person of Japanese ancestry. Asked the officer to arrest me, and the officer said, look, you'll get in trouble. Go on, run along home. And that certainly didn't serve my purposes, so I went down to the 2nd Avenue police station and talked to the sergeant and explained what I wanted done, and the sergeant obliged me, and he threw me into the drunk tank. So that's how the case began at 11:20 p.m., 28th day of March, 1942.
By challenging the law, Yasui put his career, his reputation, and his liberty on the line. He knew the risks. Just days after the outbreak of war, his family's business was closed down, and their funds were frozen. The FBI arrested his father, calling him an enemy alien. The family's wartime treatment and incarceration haunted them for the rest of their lives. His father later took his own life. In federal court, Yasui's attorney argued the Constitution guaranteed the civil rights of citizens to equal protection and due process of the law. The government rejected the argument, affirming a law based on the belief that Japanese Americans were culturally and racially predisposed to being loyal to Japan, that is, and their rights could be revoked in wartime. Yasui's sentence? 1 year in jail, of which he served 9 months in solitary confinement. To pass the time, he counted cockroaches. His tiny cell had no window for daylight. He was allowed to bathe once a month. Yasui also spent his time in solitary appealing his case to the United States Supreme Court, an appeal he ultimately lost. When Yasui was finally released from jail, he still wasn't free. He was sent to Minidoka, a concentration camp in Idaho's high desert. Yasui resettled in Denver, Colorado, where he became a civil rights advocate, and he continued his personal quest to have his wartime arrest record overturned. His conviction was reversed, but the U.S. District Court refused to address allegations of government misconduct. Yasui considered the ruling a hollow victory. His family made a final appeal to the United States Supreme Court after his death in 1986. The appeal was refused. The case was closed. But Yasui's sacrifice lives on. In 2015, President Barack Obama posthumously awarded Yasui the Presidential Medal of Freedom, America's highest civilian honor, for challenging the unjust wartime incarceration of Japanese Americans, and for his leadership in civil and human rights. The Oregon legislature designated March 28th as Minoru Yasui Day, recognizing the date in 1942 when he challenged the curfew. Yasui didn't just perform an act of resistance. He led a life of resistance. He once said, "If we believe in America, if we believe in equality and democracy, if we believe in law and justice, then each of us, when we see or believe errors are being made, has an obligation to make every effort to correct them."
So that was done in partnership with the Friends of Minidoka, and we do have some flyers in the corner if you want to get the URL to see some of the other monuments that they have. And I know Densho was also, I think, helping out because Brian Nia was in some of our meetings as well. And then just to let you know, we also have Minyasui Gel at the museum, so if you have not seen it, you should please come by, and also with the Presidential Medal of Freedom as well. So, JMO is committed to continuing the legacy of Minoru Yasui, through continuing our partnerships with the Minoru Yasui Legacy Project and, to defend civil rights and continue to advance social justice. So with that, thank you for this honor, and I'll turn it back over to Johnny.
Thank you again, and congratulations to all of you for your ongoing work and activism. Now, to announce the winners of the Senior High School Art Contest, please welcome back Emily Thackeray.
Hi. If you can't tell, I'm a little nervous. I'm used to audiences of 17 and under. Yeah, the senior division. We do not have the winners here with us, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what they wrote, though. Our honorable mention was Tavia Zabanowski, and she made this beautiful sculptural piece. As you can see, the barbed wire inside. on the top, and the cranes, shadows reflecting the surrounding imagery of the words dignity, justice, and hope. And then Catherine Messner, she was the runner-up, and she wrote, like Min, Marsha P. Johnson refused to let injustice dim her fight for LGBTQ rights, and made the resolution to fight for equal rights, and used her status to speak as a public figure out about systematic injustice. And then the winner, first place goes to Abigail Lee. And she wrote, with conflicts in every aspect of life, human rights activists are indispensable. A type of human rights activism that inspires me is speaking out against racial discrimination. Racial turmoil is still prevalent today, as it was in Minoru Yasui's time. So Amanda Gorman addresses this issue beautifully in her poem, The Hill We Climb. If you haven't listened to that, you should Google it, okay? And yeah, I hope I did mention that this year's prompt theme was what? Did I mention the prompt theme? No? Okay. Thank you. It was, what does human rights activism look like? And we are actually right now trying to think of what next year's prompt could be, so we could get started a little earlier. And we have a box in the back by the flag with a QR code on it and forms. And we would love to hear your suggestions for what the prompt could be. With that, I'm going to have Logan come up.
Hi everyone, I'm Logan Pinard. I've been a part of the Student Contest Committee for 4 years now. We're going to do a little activity. We were all brought together here today because we were inspired by Minoru Yasui. But what we want you to do is write down, everyone has one of these cards at their table, and we want you to write down someone that inspires you. And then if you could direct your attention over there to your left, there is a board where you can see these cards up, and there are little pins that you can pin these up on the board. So, thank you.
Thank you to Emily and to the Student Contest Committee and judges for all their hard work and dedication on behalf of this year's 2025 contest. Culture plays a pivotal role in igniting activism as it resonates with people's experience and aspirations and galvanizes communities to challenge injustices and motivate collective action. We'd like to recognize the Portland JACL in this final group, so please welcome Portland City Council Vice President Tiffany Koyama Lane.
How are we all doing? All right, yes. My name is Tiffany Koyama Lane. My pronouns are she, her. I am so honored to accept this award on behalf of the Japanese American Citizens League. The mission of the JACL, the Portland JACL, is both to promote and uphold human and civil rights, and also to promote and preserve the cultural heritage and values of Japanese Americans. And I'll say, as someone who's a proud Yonsei, I'm fourth generation Japanese American. Any other Yonseis in the house? Yeah, awesome. Who's raising two Gosei boys. This organization has been so important for me in order to engage in supporting and protecting human and civil rights with other Nikkei, and also to make sure that my kids have access to the cultural piece. If any of you know Jeff Matsumoto, he always dresses up as Asian Santa each year, and to be able to bring my kids to events like Mochisuki and summer picnics and Obon is something that's really important. And the majority of my Nikkei family is in California and in Hawaii, so the JCL has really felt like a family for me here, and a place where my kids can kind of have auntie and uncle time and engage in their culture, and also see people who are Japanese Americans standing up for human and civil rights, which I believe is really important for them to see. I'll say being in this space feels so good. It feels for me like a lot of parts of my world are colliding, and it also feels powerful. You know, as I walked in, it was like, oh, hi, folks from Apano, folks who were literally in my third grade classroom, folks from all these different parts of Portland, parts of our community. I'm also just thinking about how it also represents how connected we are, how important it is that we stay connected in these times. I'm going to ask you to do something that my friend just did at the protest a bit earlier, but I'm going to copy her. I'm going to ask you to turn to your left and tell the person there, hi, I'm so glad you're here. Even if you need to get up a little bit. All right, and then turn to your right and tell the person there, hi, I'm so glad you're here. These are your partners in this fight that we are in. We need each other. We see the past repeating itself. I also had my great-grandfather taken first before the rest of our family was taken to World War II incarceration camps. And as I watched the video that was taken recently of Mahmoud Khalil being taken from his home, video was taken by his wife, who's 8 months pregnant. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to watch it. It reminded me of the story of my great-grandpa Koyama. Reminded me of my great-grandma not knowing where he was being taken, what was happening, when they would see him next. History is repeating itself. I have so many constituents pulling me aside, emailing me every day, coming to my constituent events, and they're asking me, what can I do? Tell me what I can do. And I mean, spoiler alert, I don't have like the perfect solution, but I do tend to say something similar. I tend to say, make sure you stay engaged. Keep following what's happening. Follow every organization that's represented up here. Follow their newsletters, follow them on social media. Then also pick an area to focus on. And if people are coming to my constituent services, my constituent meetings, I'm usually saying pick an area, even on city council, pick a committee to focus on. And then dive in and engage and follow that committee. That also can look like follow a certain area that you are feeling pulled by and follow it closely. And then see if you can show up to a meeting, show up to a listening session. If you start following all of these newsletters, if you can even follow my newsletter, you can just Google Council President Tiffany Portland, it'll show up. You'll see there are opportunities of things you can go to. And it might be things you've never gone to before, and they can feel a little bit like, but I've never been to a budget listening session, or I've never testified about, the community center closing. I was in that place too once. If you just do it once, or you bring a buddy, then you've done it, and it gets a little bit less scary. I also, connected to all this, is be brave, and for all of us that's going to look different, and also be open to what the steps might be. As I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to say before I got here, and it started coming together for me, especially as Andy, is this going to embarrass you? Andy was in my third grade class last year. Maybe it's going to embarrass him, but I'm thinking, seeing Andy reminds me of exactly a year ago when we were in our third grade class at Sunnyside Environmental School together. and I had written a curriculum about Portland's Nihon Machi, because there were many people that didn't know that we once had a thriving Nihon Machi, a Japantown, which we now know as Old Town Chinatown, where the Japanese American Museum of Oregon is. If you haven't been, you should go. And we were doing this curriculum. We took a trip to JAMO. We also took a trip to the Oregon Historical Society. We were watching clips from Densho, and my students in our classroom were getting to hear from survivors of camps. And at the same time, I also was a third grade teacher who was pushed by my community to run for Portland City Council, which was something that I was not super excited about, but felt the urge to do, and also felt like if I'm talking to my students and telling them about how important dignity is, and we're learning about how dignity is a basic right, then I need to also walk those values. So a year ago, I'm a third grade teacher, teaching this curriculum, and we also are, part of the curriculum is studying Peggy. Like I knew Peggy as, because I had written this curriculum years before and knew of her. And so we're studying Peggy, we're watching videos of her talk about men. Do you remember this, Andy? There was you'd watch the video and then you guys had to answer the question and take the notes. Yep, thumbs up from Andy. We'll see if he's, will still talk to me after this or if he's mad at me. And I also got an email around that time from Peggy, her brother Jim, and from Teresa. Hi, Teresa, I just saw you. And their email was, "We're so excited to see someone who's JA running. We don't often see that." And for those who are Japanese American in this room, know that oftentimes it's been part of our culture, part of our family's upbringing to assimilate, to kind of put your head down out of necessity. I know that it's not my grandma Aiko's fault that when she got out of the camps at Gila River that she was told to stop speaking Japanese and to not talk about camp. But it's also a reality. And so a year ago, there had never been anyone Asian American ever on Portland City Council. And I'm thinking, now a year from that, fast forward a year ahead, now we have 2 Asian Americans on Portland City Council, both myself and my colleague Samir Kanal. So that's really exciting. I'm not saying that everyone has to run for city council, but I'm saying be open to a way that you can be bold, a way that you can step up, especially if you do identify as part of the AANHPI community, where sometimes it might feel in your body, and I would say this is probably intergenerational, it might feel like your reflex is to kind of make yourself smaller or to hide. What does that look like if you stay open, if you consider stepping up? And I do want to highlight that it doesn't mean that you have to be the council vice president, because I truly believe, and I say this to my students too, all of these small pieces, all of these different ways that we're doing work, they all are part of the fight, and they're all important. The mayor recently took me to one of the shelters to see what it was like. And there's a man who comes there every night and volunteers and plays classical music as folks are coming in and finding a space to sleep. And that's part of the work too. It looks like art. It looks like speaking up. It looks like offering to be a judge for this contest. It looks like taking your neighbor who's never been to the Japanese American Museum of Oregon or the Oregon Historical Society, taking them with you and showing them those spaces. So thank you for letting me ramble a little bit. And this really is for everyone part of the Portland JACL and the Portland JACL board. And thank you so much.
Our next awardee takes activism to another level, building solidarity across both generational and cultural boundaries. Please give a hand to Tsuru for Solidarity Executive Director Mike Ishii.
I flew in very late last night from New York, and it's always good to be back in the Pacific Northwest. I'm from Seattle originally. I want to tell a story that a lot of people don't know. I am part of Min's legacy, and Min is definitely part of my legacy. When I was 18 years old and a freshman at Oberlin College, and trying to understand what it meant to be a young Japanese American man, Min came to campus, and I got to spend a week with him. I was his chaperone. And I didn't have my grandfather. And it turned out, I never knew my grandfather. He died before I was born. He was Jimmy Sakamoto of the JCL. And Min knew him and considered him a friend. And so I don't know if he realized that he was becoming a figure for me of reference. And he was gracious and generous, and he educated me, and he convinced me as an 18-year-old that I would devote my life to healing the effects of Japanese American incarceration in my family, in myself, and in our community. And I became a reparations organizer as a result. I interviewed him for a whole week, and we recorded it and made a documentary for the radio. And I still remember, I remember talking to him and what he shared. And so it was lovely to hear the clips of him because I hadn't heard that voice in many decades now. So, okaga samade. On behalf of Tsuru, we're so deeply honored to be acknowledged and recognized, especially amongst all of these other recipients, and by this distinguished family. I will mention that Holly was one of the founders of Tsuru for Solidarity. She played a very key role in the early days of developing our detention work. And Barb Yasui is one of the leaders in Seattle of the Tsuru chapter there, and she's very involved in fighting to shut down the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma. So it's very nice to meet you, Chai, and thank you to your entire family. Tsuru started as a series of protests in 2018 when they were under the zero tolerance policy. The Trump administration was literally ripping children from the arms of their parents, putting them in cages where they were often abused, and deporting their parents out of the country. That was the first glimpse of the extent and potential of the cruelty of this regime. And as a descendant of a survivor of Minidoka, along with other descendants and survivors, we said enough. We will not stand on the sidelines while they repeat our history. And so a group of us, Satsuki Ina, Nancy Ukai, and myself led the first protests. We went to Oklahoma, where they were using a former Japanese American incarceration site, and they are still doing that, by the way, using our former incarceration sites for detention. And they were going to bring 1,600 unaccompanied children to be imprisoned there. This is a military base where Issei were executed and murdered by military guards during World War II. We stood in solidarity with immigrant communities of Oklahoma, with indigenous communities who had also been imprisoned in that military site, where Geronimo and his people were incarcerated, where Geronimo died. where 6 other chiefs are buried, and their gravestones are surrounded by chains even to this day. We came together as people opposing state violence, and we stopped them. We stopped them. And so I'm here to tell you today, when we fight, we win. And when we organize, we win. Today, that is so important. Tsuru went on to become involved. I think we've now been involved in 6 fights to either close detention sites or prevent their openings, and we've won in 4 of them in 5 years. You don't hear that in the news these days, but when we fight back, we win. It's important to know that Tsuru is made up of people just like everyone here in this room. It's often daunting to watch things happen in the news, and as Tiffany so eloquently expressed, to feel like maybe I'm not that person. But when I met Min, he lit a fire in me. He sparked my luminous center, my moral compass. And what he helped me understand is that I have a meaning here. And in this moment, when they're trying to communicate chaos, violence, and despair, and to exhaust people, it's so important for us all to not look outward for the ultimate resolution, but actually to look inward. And that's where we'll find our strength and our purpose and our guidance. And Min taught all of us that. It was the example he laid out. And for an 18-year-old boy trying to find his way in the world and trying to understand, what am I supposed to do here? What's my reason for living? I come from a family that was incarcerated at Minidoka and also executed by a gunman in upstate New York during World War II. So I know the multi-generational effects of state violence. That is happening right now to countless people. And so when I know that just 2 weeks ago, they reopened family detention in Texas, there are now 60 families in detention just in a month, and they're going to open a second detention site in Texas. I know my purpose. It's to end family detention. And if I have to do it again, then I'll commit myself to doing it again. We did it once. We made the Biden administration end it, and they brought it back. We will organize, we will fight back, and we will win this. And the way we win is through community. It's through resilience. So in this time, I love that the 1,000 gatherings happening across the country today, people are waking up to something. And what it is that we have to care. They want us not to care. And we will fight back by caring and loving each other. We will care for each other. Tsuru held its first healing of community trauma for the Japanese American community last October. 200 people, survivors and descendants, came together in Little Tokyo at the Japanese American National Museum. Densho was there, thank you, Naomi. The Ito Center also sponsored it. And for the first time in over 80 years, our people came together. We talked openly about what happened to our people, that they forcibly removed and disappeared us in one swift action, incarcerated, tortured, murdered, erased our history, and made us ashamed to be who we are. I heard a poem by a Yonsei poet the other day, Anne Watanabe from Chicago, and she said, "You put shame in our mouths, but we spit out the seeds of hope and our future." And that's what we're doing in Tsuru today. So I want to tell you that in Oregon and in Portland, led by Peggy Nagai, there's a new Tsuru chapter opening. They've had their first 2 meetings. We're having a meeting tomorrow, 2 to 4? 12:30 to 2:30. Epworth Methodist Church. this is really exciting because this is how we fight back. And when we gather together, we heal our own past trauma. And for me, thinking about Min, when I was standing in front of the gates at Fort Sill, and there were 30 military guards there with AR-15s. You couldn't see them on the cameras, but they were all pointed at us. And Satsuki Ina and I stood there and we said, "You're not going to do this. We will not let you, and we will not leave." You find your meaning in that moment, right? Because if we're going to be the allies that we needed during World War II, then it means at this moment we must risk something. And for many of our families, the way we survived, and it's very understandable, was to keep your head down, do not make noise, and work very hard to get ahead and find some safety for the future generations. And we did that. We survived wonderfully. And now it's time for us to actually go back, look violence straight in the eye, and take a risk to stop it from happening to somebody else. Because when our people were removed, almost nobody went into the streets. Nobody went to the fences. There were no national protests, but we can do that now. And we are the community that has moral authority to do that. And when we stand up together as a united front and speak out and say, "Stop repeating our history," it matters. It matters because it awakens resilience in other people. We also heal our own multi-generational trauma in that moment. It's very powerful. I want to, finally, I'd like to ask the Tsuru folks in the back to stand up. Go ahead. Josefina, Linda, Glenn. Come on, Glenn. Stand up, Glenn. Yeah. Emily, Lisa, Peggy. These are folks from the community, and there are many others across the country who are organizing at home, starting important projects like opposing the Northwest Detention Center, or doing Know Your Rights trainings, or talking to Congress people and municipal leaders about, we do not want you to work with ICE or CBP. We do not want detention sites expanding in our communities. We, as people with voting rights, need to stand up and do these things. And these are things that we can do as a community. So again, I just want to say thank you so much for your support of 5 years of support from the Japanese American community. Thank you to the Minoru Yasui Legacy Project for this recognition. Thank you to the Oregon Nikkei community, and thank you to the Yasui family. Okage samade.
Last and certainly not least, we recognize the Japanese Ancestral Society of Portland. Accepting this award of the organization, on behalf of the organization, is board member and immediate past president, Mike Irinaga.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Irinaga. I'm the former past president of the Japanese Ancestral Society, and on behalf of the current president, Rich Iwasaki, who is currently in Japan, I am happy and very proud to accept the award, the recognition from the Minoru Yasui Legacy Project. I wasn't sure that I was supposed to give a talk today, so I'll just kind of wing it here. The Japanese Ancestral Society of Portland, we promote cultural heritage and traditions of the Japanese American community through activities that value education, multi-generational programs, and community collaboration. We oversee what is called the Koinokai Senior Lunch Program, located at Epworth Methodist Church. We also deliver monthly bento program to shut-ins, and we maintain the local Japanese cemetery in Northeast Portland. We're culture bearers, and as such, the Japanese Ancestral Society, we're rooted in lessons of the past. We advocate for a just society where cultural heritage is valued and uplifted. We want to make sure that civil rights and democracy are upheld for everyone, regardless of race, background, ethnicity, and we are all treated with dignity and respect, living free from fear and oppression. Our organization goes back to the early 1900s. I remember my grandfather being on the board. Fast forward to now, we corroborate with a lot of the organizations that are here, and we hosted last year an important community workshop with Metro to provide commentary and feedback on the future of the 53-acre redevelopment of the Portland Expo Center and how its history must be preserved, shared, and uplifted. It was the site of the former Portland Assembly Center, where 3,676 Japanese and Japanese American men, women, and children were forcibly removed during World War II and incarcerated, as the more permanent structures, Minidoka among them, were being made inland. We also condemn the invocation of the recent Alien Enemies Act under this current presidential regime, which enforces mass deportations and the resurgence of unconstitutional actions like those that have led to the incarceration of our community, Japanese and Japanese people ancestry during World War II. Struggles of the Japanese Americans fuel our commitment to ensure history is never repeated or erased. What I'd like to do is share a little bit. One of the reasons the Yasui family is near and dear to our family is that my mom was a good friend of Min's younger sister, Yuka. They were at the University of Oregon together. And because of that friendship, my mom was asked to testify before the Oregon Senate for the legislation to create a perpetual Min Yasui Day every March 28th. And if I might, I'd like to read just a couple things from there. My mom and dad are Nisei. They both passed, but that's the second generation. So the first generation were my grandparents who came here as teenagers. My mom, in her testimony, goes on to say, I was happy to go to Shattuck's elementary school. I had a great time playing as a 12-year-old with my many Caucasian and Asian American friends. And I really liked playing with my Shirley Temple doll. That was that era. She has fond memories of going, riding the streetcar by herself. It was safer then, I guess, in downtown Portland to meet my grandfather, her dad, as he got off his shift as the machinist from the Union Pacific Railroad. And then they would walk home together to the Chester Hotel, which was their family residence and their business. But then on December 7th, 1941, everything changed. Pearl Harbor and the beginning of World War II with Japan. My mom goes on to say, Lily, we were always proud Americans, but suddenly the country is overcome, blinded by the hysteria of war, singling out all people of Japanese heritage, including Japanese American citizens on the West Coast for incarceration. This sounds all too familiar to me for today's goings-on. The U.S. government looked upon us as foreigners, not as Americans, and mistaking us as people loyal to the country of Japan. The U.S. totally forgot. My parents chose America. this is our home, not Japan. As young adults, my parents had left Japan forever. They really didn't know what was going to happen. And that evening, because they already had tickets for a performance of a visiting singing and dancing troupe from Japan at the Norse Hall in Northeast Japan, at intermission during that performance, which I later found out, I remember some official-looking men coming into the hall, which I later found out were from the FBI. They announced over the speaker system the names of a dozen or more Issei men, first-generation men, including my dad's own name, ordering them to immediately assemble in the lobby. I ran out to see my father. I saw him along with the others being handcuffed in the lobby, then being scurried out into the night. My mom goes on to say, from that scary night, she didn't see her dad for 2.5 years. They received only edited letters from him, pages cut out with scissors, mailed from places like prison camps and penitentiaries, Missoula, Montana, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, Camp Livingston, Louisiana, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Crystal City, Texas. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, through General John DeWitt, ordered all Japanese on the West Coast to abide by many new exclusions. Those of curfews, exclusion orders, the thing that Min had his brave civil disobedience of going against that and walking that evening. My mom says, my parents lost almost everything they had. We, like other families, were in a panic. When Executive Order 9066 for evacuation was issued, we were just given days to dispose of things. I remember we were only allowed to bring a few possessions. I sadly remember having to leave my Shirley Temple doll behind because there was no room in my suitcase. We found ourselves then at the Portland Livestock Yard, the Portland Assembly Center. Min Yasui called this a pig pen. I remember that it smelled horrible, like horse manure. We had no privacy. Each family was cramped into stinky little plywood stalls where we lived and slept. And this was a temporary way station as they were building the other 10 interior incarceration or concentration camps. And most of the people in this area ended up going to the desert area in Minidoka near Twin Falls, Idaho. It goes on, but I wanted to give you a flavor of what a 12-year-old experienced right before her father was taken away, and then now mother and daughter were had an unclear future as they were now going to the desert area in Minidoka. My dad was also incarcerated there. They did not meet until after the war, but he volunteered for what many of you probably know as the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, the famous Go for Broke team. And so that was an interesting situation. So he mustered the courage, despite the fact that his family was behind barbed wires, to volunteer for this regimental combat team within the United States Army, a segregated unit. My mom goes on to say, Min Yasui also had the courage to do what he did and to display his courageous act of civil disobedience. Min Yasui never gave up his fight for justice, working with Peggy on the Quorum Nobis situation. He was a beacon of light for all Oregonians and all Americans. We need freedom and justice for Americans of every race, every color, ethnic group, age, religion, sex, or lifestyle. So remembering Min Yasui every March 28th is a significant and symbolic reminder that America should never forget. That's what Fred believed, my dad. That's what Min believed, and that's what I believe. She ends that. And One of the famous things that Min had said, I saw it on one of the cards here, is what is done for the least of us can be done to all of us. But if you'll please repeat with me 3 times the words that my mom said. America should never forget. Can we say that together? America should never forget. America should never forget. America should never forget. Thank you very much. Oh. Here's the Shirley Temple doll. After she gave the testimony, then Senator Ted Ferrioli, Republican senator from Eastern Oregon, I believe, was so moved. I saw tears in a lot of the legislature's eyes that he went out and got this. And when it was presented to my mom, she goes, "That's very nice, but that's the wrong doll." And I go, well, "It's a Shirley Temple doll. It's authentic from the 1940s era." And she goes, "No, mine was the baby one with diapers." So I just thought I'd show that.
Thank you again to all of our awardees and everyone here for joining us today. We all need to support and join our awardees in their ongoing efforts to continue Min and Holly's legacy. We must continue to fight racism and discrimination and stand for our democracy as individuals, with groups, or with others at both the local and national level. Now for closing remarks, please welcome Maya Yasui.
Probably didn't think I was a Yasui. I am the daughter-in-law of Chop Ray Yasui. He was the chonan of the family. He was Min's older brother. But I'm here to thank you and keep it short and sweet. Not so sure how sweet. But what I want you to do is to feel that you are amongst friends, but amongst fellow activists here. And this room is full of energy and enthusiasm for making a change. So I'm going to ask you to move. So I'd first like all of the honorees to stand and face the audience, and all of their colleagues. Please, all of you stand. All of you colleagues. This is an amazing group of folks. And now I'd like the young folks to stand, the art contest winners, the student art contest committee as well. I'd like the Minoru Yasui Legacy Project group to stand and face the audience. And now I'm going to ask something that is going to tick my kids off, and all the rest of the Yasui family, but I would like all of the Yasui family members here to stand and face the audience. They are all active. Barb sends her apologies. She's traveling. that Barb is doing an amazing thing with the Minoru Yasui Legacy Project. She's bringing together the educated groups. We've met with Oregon Historical Society, Densho, Tsuru, and we're bringing folks together, Apano, JAMO, and we're coming together to share all of the knowledge that we have, to really be able to have that information flow freely. There's no right place. It's all the right place. So I'd like to thank our steadfast crew, Josh's crew, if you would stand up. This has been pretty darn seamless, and we're to the end, so it better be seamless for my grandson, okay? Jim Nagai, our photographer. Is Alan Zhao here? Alan. Okay, stand up, Alan. He had a National Historic Film winner, 2 of them actually, but one was on Minoru Yasui about 3 years ago. Yes, he's grown up and he's continuing to do excellent photography work. I'd like to, did Violet and Logan stand up with the committee? Okay, standing up. Pass your cards down to them too, and they will keep sticking those up. And then you've already heard a mention of both the Oregon Historical Society exhibit that's coming up, the Apano naming opportunity. If any of you have naming opportunities for schools, it's a wonderful way to keep the legacy growing and going. I think you had a boardroom where folks could meet, and it sparks your remembrance of what Min did. So there's also one more, which is coming up in May, and the Yasui family mini reunion will be traveling to Eugene, and the University of Oregon is naming a Yasui family residence hall in their name. And the beauty of this is that it's not just Min. It's about Yuka. It's about Min. It's about Shu. It's, who am I forgetting? Michi. And it's the whole family. That's why when we have sponsorships, we come under the name of Masuo and Shizuo Yasui. It's critical because they're passing down generation after generation this need to be active, to speak out. So as I close, I'd like to thank all of you for remembering those who inspired you and thanking others for their inspiration with the cards, with the note up above. I want you to see the strength in numbers, the strength in this whole room filled together. And even though some folks mentioned it was kind of overwhelming, what we're facing, I think if you remember that you're surrounded by a support network within your own communities, but one that spans the globe. If you look at where folks have come from, where artworks come from, it crosses generations, and like a chain reaction, it's unstoppable. I'd like to introduce my grandchild, Mac Yasui, and if you would make your way up, Mac. He is Min Yasui's great-grand-nephew, if I've got that right. He will be singing a song, Remember Me, to a montage of photos of the Min Yasui Legacy Project over the last 10 years. And you will see many folks you know. Lily's in the picture. We have a number of folks that are in this picture, from politicians to moms and dads to different leaders. So I want you to welcome Mac and to think about the activists who've come before you, who are standing with you, and who are going to lead us into the future. So Mac Yasui, remember me.
to say goodbye, remember me. Don't let it make you cry. For even if I'm far away, I hold you in my heart. Sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Remember me. Though I have to travel far, remember me. Each time you hear a sad guitar, that I'm with you in every way that I can be. I'm in your arms again. Recuérdame. Hoy me tengo que ir, mi amor. Recuérdame. No llores, por favor. Te llevo en mi corazón y cerca me tendrás. A solas yo te cantaré, soñando en regresar. Recuérdame, aunque tengo que emigrar, recuérdame. Si mi guitarra oyes llorar, ella con su triste canto te acompañará. Hasta que en mis brazos tú estés. Remember me.
I wanted Mac to sing a fight song and get you all pumped up. And Mac said, geez, Grandma. So, like the picture of Min with Holly on his shoulders, we stand on the shoulders of those who come before us. We reach higher because of those who inspire us. And we're thankful for the power of youth, whose passion will take us into the future. So thank you again, Mac. And like fireworks, we plan on lighting up the sky. We're going to soar higher and further because of all those that are around us. This really is the end. I'm going to ask our groups to come forward so the honorees will stand beneath a banner, and Jim will get photos of you, and perhaps Alan, then the student winners, and then we're going to ask all of you to form one large group. So got those instructions? Final thank you, University of Oregon, for being our hostess, the amazing work that they're doing. And this is a brand new campus, one of the first times folks have been in here, so we're learning a lot. In case you wondered, these are 10th anniversary moans of the Yasui family, but it's in black and gold as a symbol of the work after 10 years of hard work. So we greatly appreciate all of you. First, the honorees, if you will head over to the signs, then the students can go in the second area. I'd like the third area for the Minoru Yasui Legacy Project, even though you don't want to.